The side lying series is in a way the most powerful because it's really getting us into the beginning of left, right, right, left body, which is ipsilateral stability, which is abduction. So abduction means to go away from midline. So if you imagine the hip abducting, then the hip abductors are firing to create that effect. When we do this work in a closed chain, they're firing in relation to information coming from the body to create a closed chain contraction and help us a lot with joint stability. Now, what do we know about setting up and why does it matter? Well, we know the baby is never compromised for space. So if you look at this angle with Jordan, we can even take it a little bit further out and we can see there's just good space here at the leg. It's not in any way cramped up where he's feeling crowded in the movement. Then if we look at the underside body, we've got, weight bearing on the hip, and then we've got the fact that the trunk pelvis is on the angle created by the side lying position. Now, people we work with ourselves really struggle initially in this side lying position to have an accurate perception of vertical because our balance centers are also in this side lying setup. So the midline, axis midline perspective has to be accurate in side lying. Now the hinge of movement is this shoulder and the bottom hip. Now if you just do a small rotational movement, mate, we can see that Jordan moved here and he also moves through this underside hip and coming back. And this is the basis of a locomotion approach as opposed to a muscles approach. So Jordan organised his whole body in order to perform that, and whatever fired based on his perception of vertical and the fact that he was moving through those hinges. So what's important in this position is the distance between the crown of the head and the pelvic floor, the symmetry of the rib wall, the symmetry of the pelvis relative to the trunk, and that we're not overworking in the position. Now, one of the hardest things to achieve is no bulging in the underside ribs and good tractioning of the top side, particularly this waist. And then we can see that the shoulder angle is just a little bit open relative to the position. But if you look at that from that perspective, it's in line. So if you're looking across the shoulder girdles, then that's actually in line. So what are we going to do in this instance? Jordan, I want you to be aware of your underside body, your support. I want you to be aware that the underside body is lifting the top body, so that is space. And then I want you to be aware of your back body being as long as possible, and particularly through TL junction down through the lumbar spine into the back pockets, and that's also represented with your scapula. Okay, he's been here a while now, folks, so we need to get him to lift because you're getting fatigued. So lift up in the position, and you can see that we've come into abduction of the hips. So that alone is considerable work. Now what I'd like you to do, mate, is open up the joint angle into hip extension. So you're opening up through the front and creating hip extension in the position. Very good. And now come back in the position and come down. And rest.